Hello and welcome everyone to the open day for Bachelor of International Studies. My name is Julian Lee and I'm super excited to be here to be able to tell you about this fantastic degree that I've been a part of for over 10 years. Now, one of the things that's fantastic about this degree, well, there's a number of things, but it is academically grounded, but real point of difference for this degree is its professional and career orientation. And we're going to be hearing about that throughout the presentation today. So one of the things that we're going to be doing today is talking through the Bachelor of International Studies, telling you all the components and telling you how it's different and what's superb about it and why it's my privilege to be part of this degree. And it is a degree that I've been working with and deeply impressed with, not only the structure of the degree, but the community of staff and students around it. And honestly, there's not another degree anywhere in the country that I'd rather be teaching into. So today we're going to be talking about how this degree and how studying at RMIT enables you to really constructively and with passion and excitement to engage with the world as it is today, and how this degree and how studying at RMIT brings together a whole lot of skills and competencies and experiences that enable you to take this world on head on and with vigor and excitement and competence and with all the skills you need to thrive. So so this degree helps build a global skill set, and we're going to be hearing about that in a moment. And the other thing that we're going to be doing is telling you a few stories about students. So we're going to be hearing from a third-year student who's been able to use the global opportunities that are so much a part of this degree to leverage those in order to find her way into the job that she's been striving for years. And we're also going to hear from an alumni and her story about the amazing work she's doing and how important the Bachelor of International Studies was for her today. So we'll be hearing all those things, and joining me today are a number of people, including Meg Summers, who is the third-year student, who we'll be hearing from a bit later on. We're going to be joined also by Dr. Emma Dalton, who's going to be telling us about languages. And also in the chat is Associate Dean Christopher Zaguris. And so throughout this whole presentation, it'll be fantastic to hear whatever questions you have. And Chris and our colleague Jennifer are going to be answering those questions in the chat whilst Meg and Emma and I are talking. So throw them in there, and we'll also hear from Chris later on, right at the end of the degree, at the end of the presentation. And let's get on with it. And also joining us is Salman, who is the producer behind all of this. So yeah, and Salman, next slide. So one of the fantastic things about my role here at RMIT is not only my involvement with this fantastic degree, but also my involvement with a university that is so deeply engaged with issues relating to the Indigenous cultures of Australia. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we all acknowledge the Woiwurrung and Wurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT University, and we all respectfully acknowledge ancestors and elders past and present. And we also acknowledge the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. Next slide. So as noted before, RMIT has a deep engagement not only with the world, but also with issues of reconciliation and Indigenous society in Australia. So, and one of the really heartening and fantastic things about being at RMIT is that I am at an institution which is at the forefront of trying to address these issues. And so when you join us at RMIT, you'll be able to participate in those things and all the different ways in which we engage, and also just how much of it is a part of our culture. So this image here is taken from Bowen Lane, and this is one of the new statues that helps to bring that engagement to life here at RMIT. So next slide. So yes, we're here. We are here to tell you about the Bachelor of International Studies, which has been part of RMIT University for over 20 years. And this is a degree that really helps us to explore the intercultural, social and political issues of our day. And through this degree, you'll be exploring things from policy making to community development. And if you're passionate about international affairs or becoming globally informed and want to become an effective intercultural communicator, international studies is a degree that really helps you to prepare for that dynamic and challenging career. But it is not just a regular international studies degree. It's not just at all a regular arts degree that you might find elsewhere. And that is really the key point of difference about studying at RMIT and studying international studies at RMIT. So on the one hand, it is an academically informed and rigorous degree. But at the same time, what makes it different to other degrees that you might be considering is the professional and career orientation that is embedded from the ground and throughout your whole time at RMIT. And so we know from feedback from students who've come into our degree from other universities, and also from students who have finished the degree and then been teaching or engaged at other universities and they come back and say, yeah, actually, I never really understood how different international studies at RMIT was from the other places that you might be considering, because our discussion about careers and being prepared for them and what the skill sets are that you're developing is just so much more in the air and so much more part of the discussion here at RMIT than it is elsewhere. So if you're looking for a degree that enables you to not only develop your skills in international studies and being internationally competent, but also drives the discussion and thinking through of issues relating to careers right from day one, then international studies at RMIT may well be the degree for you, because RMIT is a university that is so deeply intertwined with industry and society and companies and organizations all around the world and locally in Melbourne, that it is a core part of the teaching ethos here at RMIT. So this is a degree which is not only an international studies degree, quote unquote, but it is also one which has threaded through it the career and professional focus that we'll be exploring in the discussion today. So yeah, and the other thing I also wanted to mention, and which we'll come back to in a few moments' time, is that international studies and RMIT have a fantastic and extensive network of alumni. And this alumni, so not only is the cohort and the atmosphere in the degree so dynamic, but our relationships with our alumni are so strong as well. And we're going to be hearing a couple of examples of how that alumni network have really enabled us to do a great deal of good for the students and also help them with their careers as well. So yes, next slide. So international studies at RMIT, the Bachelor of International Studies is a specialist international studies degree. It is focused on enabling students who do the degree to become globally competent, interculturally competent, and have an understanding of the world as it affects both global issues and also local issues. And so there are no issues today in the world which are just confined to the local. They are all simultaneously local and global. And having that global context and having that global understanding really enables people who do the international studies degree to be able to engage more thoughtfully and more contextually with whatever it is that they're interested in, whether it's Indigenous issues in Australia to big global issues relating to climate change or the UN. The understanding and the skills that you develop in international studies, in the specialist international studies degree, are widely applicable and highly sought after. So there are 4 versions of the international studies degree at RMIT. There is the specialist international studies degree, and then there are 3 other versions of it which have a further area of focus. So there is the development focus, which has a greater concentration on issues of international development and things of that sort. So there's a development focus. There is the global security focus, and that global security focus is more attuned to issues of contemporary foreign policy, foreign affairs, issues relating to global security. International forums and governmental interactions. So there is the development focus, global security focus, and the languages focus as well. Because one of the things that we know from talking to global companies and global organizations, as well as local companies and organizations, is that having a multiple, having the ability to engage with multiple cultures and in multiple languages is really a point of difference and really a skill that is much valued. And for those students who might be interested in really taking on languages and extending it and developing that language competency, we also have a focus on languages as well as an option. So there are 4 versions, the Specialist International Studies one, and then 4 sub-versions, which are development, global security, and languages. Next slide, please. So before I get on to talking about the structure of the degree and the community and so on, it is just worth noting that to get into the Bachelor of International Studies, you, like as with any bachelor's degree, would need to have finished year 12 or an equivalent. And the ATAR range is also worth speaking to. So the ATARs move around every single year. The ATARs for all the 4 versions of this degree are basically the same, 76 plus or minus a little bit. And every year or in years past, these ATARs may have been higher. But then, as with all other universities and so on, they move up and down. And of course, this was the range last year. So we taken students anywhere between this range and of course right up to the 99s. And we, of course, no one knows what the ATARs will be for the next round. So irrespective of what ATAR is that you think you might have, or that you, or irrespective of what you might have, if you feel as if this degree is for you, you should definitely list us as your first preference. But this is just an indication of what the ATAR was for the commencing year this year. If there are also other pathways into the degree, I should note it. But for those, if you're not a year 12 leaver, then maybe the easiest thing to do is to send me an email, which you'll see at the end of this end of this presentation. Next slide. So what I want to do briefly now is talk about the structure of the international studies degree and how it achieves some of the things that we say that we talk about. So in first year, you have what is largely a set menu of courses. The 4 different streams or 4 different versions have slightly different differences in the first year. But let's just talk about the basic specialist international studies version. So in that first year, you don't have a whole lot of choice in terms of what subjects you do, but as the years go on, you do get more and more choice and ability to choose your direction and your area of specialization in the degree with these electives and university electives. So we embed from the first year key and foundational understandings relating to understanding the world and globalization and our global world, and then increasingly issues relating to cross-cultural communication and intercultural and language ability. So in addition to the core courses that you'll be doing in first and second semester in year 1, you do in that year begin your language studies. And so you can choose, so if you are in the language specialization, you choose from the 4 key languages that we teach at RMIT, which are Japanese and the 3 other UN languages, French, Spanish, and Chinese. But if you're in some of the other versions of the degree, then if you have an interest, for example, in learning German or Hindi, as the case may be, it is possible to do those other languages at other universities and have them credited into this degree. So but in a moment, we're going to hear a little bit more about languages and the role they play from my colleague, Dr. Emma Dalton. So in the first semesters, it's largely a set menu where we embed this key knowledge, and as the degree goes on, you get more choice, and the discussion around careers and employment and your trajectory becomes more and more prominent. So, for example, you can see on the left of your screen, Global Careers, which is a course that I teach and which I love, where we really begin to investigate what are the career trajectories that you want to explore. So this degree is one which is fantastic for both developing those professional competencies and those professional experiences, as we'll hear more about in a moment, but one which really takes on quite early on in the degree the thinking about how to think about your careers and how to strategize for them now, but not only the end of the degree, but also into the longer term. So we really enable you to develop these concepts about career thinking, and also concepts and thinking and self-understanding about yourself and your own trajectory. And that comes into fruition in the third year, where you undertake a large research project, basically of any issue of your choice, whether it's a local one or one of global relevance and salience, in global research project, global professional practice, where we hone key professional skills, and we'll be hearing about that course when we hear from alumni to Neil Gilbert in a little while, and then the global internship. And the global internship is a key component of this degree, because we know that the degree is important. The degree is really important, but also important are the stories and the experiences that you gain throughout your time at university. And having workplace experience and workplace skills that you're able to talk about in CVs and cover letters, and also at job interviews, is just so important. And these really come through in your internship, which you'll be doing in your third year. To complement all the study and to enable you to focus in areas that you might be of specific interest to you, there are also several electives that you need to do. And so here on the right-hand side of the screen, just a small number of the electives that you can do, which may relate to policy, issues of Indigenous issues in Australia, and even opportunities to develop your digital savvy as well. So before I talk a little bit more about the degree, I want to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Emma Dalton, who's going to tell us a little bit more about languages and the role of languages, and how to think about that a little as well. Emma.
Thank you, Julian. Hi, I'm Emma Dalton from the Languages team. Thanks for tuning in. Studying a language is a logical part of studying for a degree in international studies. It allows you to gain a deeper understanding of other cultures, and this in turn becomes a mirror to understanding your own, and in the process helps you to develop a worldly and empathetic outlook on things. Studying a language will give you an edge over those without a second or third language or fourth in many ways. So what does RMIT offer students who want to pursue this? You can begin your language study at your existing proficiency level. So if you're a complete beginner, we have courses for you. And if you have already studied language, like at school or somewhere else, we have courses for you as well. The 3-year language major in the Bachelor of International Studies can be done, as Julian mentioned, in Chinese, French, Japanese, or Spanish. You need to complete 6 to 8 courses in the same language to get the major. If you enter at a higher level, you can do a major in one language and also study a second one, like as electives using program or student electives. So what kind of approach do we take to language learning at RMIT? We focus on practical and applied language skills to help improve students' language ability, but also their intercultural communication skills. So we do this by encouraging students to engage intellectually and culturally with the countries where that language is spoken. So this would involve, for example, encouraging students to do study abroad, international exchange. Of course, this is pending COVID restrictions. You can also do global intensives, work-based or internship programs, and other short-term or long-term programs. So RMIT Exchange can help you work out if you want to take this path and how to do it. And also, if you have a high proficiency, or if you end up getting a high proficiency after your 3-year Bachelor of International Studies, You can consider continuing your studies by enrolling in the Masters of Interpreting or Translating, which is one of RMIT's strong offerings. You can also consider doing an honours on a topic related to your language, like a culture or social or linguistic topic as well, because we have many people who can help you, who can supervise you in this kind of study. That's all I've got from my end, so I'll hand back to Julian.
Great, thank you so much, Emma. So one of the things that's so fantastic to observe over the years when students begin their language study in first year is to see how that really can have an impact on how they develop their final year and also their honours year. So for example, we've had students who started with Chinese level 1, and I'm thinking of a couple of examples while Emma was talking. And now Ricardo, for example, he's doing his honours project in relation to issues relating to China, and he spent some time in China as well, brushing up his Chinese language skills. And there's so many examples of students who started learning Spanish and then have ended up doing their exchange in Spain and then doing internships in Spain. And the same goes for all the languages, including Japanese, which Emma teaches, and students who started with Japanese and then went on to do internships in Japan and even teaching in one way or another in Japan. And we also just had a student finish her internship at a Japanese organization as well, where she had a fantastic time and also learned a whole bunch of things about herself, because she thought she was on one course in terms of where she wanted to go in her career, but this internship really changed her mind in terms of where she wanted to go with her life. So yeah, so languages is just such a valuable skill to develop, and this degree is a degree unlike any other, which enables you to really hone those that language skill. Okay, next slide, Salman. Yeah, so as I said before, RMIT University and International Studies is a degree where a key point of difference is our engagement with the industry. And industry is a word which refers not only to, I guess, big multinational corporations, but also any area of work that you might imagine yourself going into, whether it's a small NGO or a big NGO or a small company or a big company. We have students who have graduates who have gone on to work in all those different kinds of organizations, whether it's Ernst & Young, Allianz, for example, as well as small NGOs in South America and in Thailand, for example. So industry is core to what we do at RMIT and in international studies. And part of what enables us to do that is our regular engagement with industry through our Industry Advisory Committee. There we have experts in the areas of development and global security. We also have a former diplomat in our International Advisory Committee at the moment who advises us on the shape and the teaching of our degree. Local award-winning NGOs, the Red Cross is a key partner of ours, and really this industry connection not only informs how we teach, but is also a key part of you and your ability to tell a story about what your skill set is and what your abilities are. And so this is really the whole package of learning at RMIT. Not only the academic content, but also everything around it as well. And so, for example, you can develop a whole number of skills that you can show and create evidence for, not only through the courses that you do or the volunteering that you do or the internship, but then we also, there are so many free opportunities through RMIT, including loads of micro-credentials that can demonstrate your ability in digital competencies, international collaboration, and so on and so forth, as well as we have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning, and there's so many courses there where you can top up and with whatever is of interest to you, whether it relates to leadership or how to use an Excel spreadsheet, whatever the case may be. There's just such a lot of opportunity at RMIT and through the International Studies degree. So the IS degree, the International Studies degree, is not just a degree, it's a huge facilitator of whatever it is that you want to do. If you know where you're going, then we can facilitate that. If you want to explore to work out where you want to go, International Studies is also the perfect degree for doing that as well. So So there's loads of things that we do along these lines. Look, you can take part in a local and overseas internship. There are project competitions, which I think we'll hear about from Tennille, and also with respect to, we'll talk about that in a second as well. We do field trips and overseas study tours, and all those sorts of amazing things. So next slide. Yeah, so we have a lot of industry engagement in various forms. A key partner for us is Australian Red Cross. We have a practitioner from Red Cross who is embedded within our discipline team. And so she is involved in not only teaching of courses, but she also helps with, she's also involved in a core way in our internship program as well. But yeah, we liaise with so many different organizations. Just some of them are up here on the screen at the minute. And as I was saying before, it is really a key part of what we do here at RMIT and in international studies as well. Next slide. So just as a small example of some of the things that sprang to mind when I was doing these slides. So for example, what we do in the third year course, we take part in the big issue competition, and using that as a vehicle, we are able to explore various professional skills that are key not only to that are key to any career that you might wish to undertake. We have a deep relationship with SisterWorks, which is an award-winning local NGO, which helps women who are from refugee and asylum seeker backgrounds to basically get on their feet and to develop business projects and to empower them economically as well. So here you can see me with Maria, who now works there full time, and on the left of me is Gilda, who is also, they're both international studies alumni, and I worked with Gilda to develop a whole bunch of videos with Maria for SisterWorks to facilitate their work. And also another fantastic example on the right, we were able to send a couple of students to the International Commission on the Conservation of the Antarctic, because we have nestled amongst us one of the foremost translating and interpreting teaching squads in Australia, and so they were involved in this commission, and our students went along to observe how it went, and which was just such an amazing opportunity for them to participate in. Yeah, next slide. So as we'll hear about in a moment from Meg, one of the things that really is clear about the international studies degree is the wealth of opportunities, and particular global opportunities that you can participate in. So, for example, what you can see on this slide here is just a number of the countries where we have different exchange relationships with. So whatever your aspirations are in terms of where you might want to go, or whatever global experience you might want to have, it is almost certain that we have an exchange partner where you can participate in an experience in that country. And there are ways to find out exactly who our partners are, and if you want, you can email me about that. But yeah, you can be sure that that there is ample choice. And of course, as Emma made reference to before, we are obviously living in certain constrained times in terms of what we can do in terms of going overseas. But we are definitely hopeful that by the time you might be starting your studies with us, that all those opportunities will be restored to various degrees. So by the time you might well be considering going on exchange, for example, that won't be next year, that will be the year after, and hopefully everything is sorted out by then. So we are already operating on the assumption that we can restore some of these activities next year. So fingers crossed, and let's only hope about that. So in addition to those global opportunities, and in a moment, I'm going to hand over to our fantastic third year student, Meg. Let me just tell you a few other kinds of opportunities. So we all know about exchange as a part of a bachelor's degree, but there are so many more ways you can engage with global issues, some of which Meg will tell us about. So not only can you go to exchange to, for example, the Netherlands or Canada, where loads of our students love to go, as well as Spain. We also have a campus in Vietnam, and you can go there and take our courses there, as some of our students have done. So, and yeah, I used to work for another university that has a campus in Malaysia, and the Vietnam one is like way better in my opinion. So then there's also study abroad, which is like exchange, but are kind of like shorter kinds of activities. So I know Meg has done one or two of these as well. So you might be able to do, for example, a course on South Korean pop culture and maybe like Korean language, and you can get credit for one or two courses for that. And you can do loads of those as well. So there are loads of those opportunities that even still exist. Loads of new Colombo Plan funding that students can participate in, study tours that we are always organising under normal circumstances, and what is coming on stream, I think, as of next year, which is like super kind of new news, is that we have an arrangement with UPF University in Spain, where in your third year you can instead of studying your third year here in Australia, you can study your third year in Barcelona. And then not only will you get your international studies degree, but you'll get an additional diploma on top of that. And when things are all up and running, you know, globally speaking, students will be every year, 3 or 4 or 5 students of ours will be able to go to Spain, participate in that, and walk away with not only the international studies degree, but also a UPF diploma as well. So that is a fantastic opportunity for those who have an aspiration with respect to Europe or Spain in particular. So just on the theme of these global opportunities that complement our degree so well, I want to hand over to Meg, who's in her third year. And you know, what I was saying before about alumni opportunities, Meg is on her way to her dream job in Canberra. And we have a small colony of international studies graduates from RMIT up in Canberra. And so, yeah, one of the nice things is that we've been able to connect Meg with one of those that is in the department that she's going to. And that is really such the fantastic value of the alumni network at RMIT. So, so over to Meg.
Thank you so much, Julian. It's lovely to be at Open Day with you all this year. It's nice to be on the other end. It wasn't very long ago that I was listening in as a Year 12 student.
Oh, and Meg, I'll just interrupt. Sorry, Selma, can you move the slide on one? Thanks. Back to you, Meg.
So as Julian said, my name is Meg Summers, and I'm a third-year student in the Bachelor of International Studies. I'm in the Global Security specialisation, and I'm finishing up my final semester at the end of this year. So I started the degree in 2019 after taking a gap year when I finished Year 12. And I'm looking forward to beginning my career next year, working in foreign policy in Canberra. So I know when I was in Year 12, I was looking at a number of international studies degrees, trying to decide which university to attend. And the thing that really stood out to me about RMIT's program was the number of global opportunities available that students can partake in, and also the work-ready focus of the program, which was something that was really important to me. I wanted to make sure that I was in a degree where I would be able to find employment when I graduated. And I believed that this real career focus of the RMIT program and the wide range of extracurricular activities would really enhance my ability to find employment after graduation. And I have been able to do that to secure a job before, I've even finished the degree. So I think that is a testament to the wide array of work-ready opportunities in the degree, as well as all of the global experiences that you can undertake. So, as I'm sure you've gathered from Julian's speech earlier, there's a huge array of global opportunities that students can be involved in, and I'm really fortunate to have had the opportunity to undertake many of them. There is lots of encouragement within the degree to make the most of all experiences that present themselves, which vary from travelling overseas to global experiences online during the pandemic, but hopefully for those that are attending today, you will be able to get overseas instead. So this encouragement to undertake these opportunities comes from both students and staff. The lecturers and tutors are really supportive and encouraging the students to undertake these opportunities, as well as sharing the opportunities with them, which is something that I've found to be quite unique to RMIT. I know my friends at other universities haven't always had the same level of support, which I think I took for granted until I realised that how special it is to have your lecturers and tutors just emailing you opportunities, being like, oh, hi Meg, like I think this might be something you're interested in. And it shows that being in, you know, that tight-knit degree, it really presents a lot of opportunities for students. So I thought to give you a bit of an idea of the types of opportunities that are available, I would just quickly run through some of the really interesting opportunities that I've had as a student. Just keeping in mind, this is only my own experience, so it's quite a small snapshot of what's available. But as I was writing down the list in preparation for today, it really made me reflect on just how many cool things you can do in this degree in quite a short time. So one of the real highlights for me has been participating in the Global Voices program. So this program, Global Voices, allows students to attend an international delegation, either with the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, all of those huge multilateral forums. You get to go along as a delegate, a youth delegate, listen in. In non-COVID times, you actually, go to Geneva in Switzerland, or you go to Germany in Bonn to attend it. So I attended the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change intersessionals. I attended online due to the pandemic, but I was able to listen in to the closed-door negotiations between countries on what they're going to do about climate change, which was a pretty unique experience. As well as that, I was able to write a policy paper and have some writing published, which again is quite an exciting thing for a student to have your name published on a piece of writing, as well as the Canberra pre-briefings, where you met with government leaders, industry leaders, as well as academics and experts in the field to prepare you for attending those international negotiations. Another experience that I've been fortunate to attend was an Indonesian language summer intensive through the Australian Consortium for In-Country Indonesian Studies, which you'll probably hear a lot about in the degree, but it just gets shortened to ACHICHUS. So they run heaps of programs for RMIT students, semester-long exchanges, as well as short-term language intensives and study tours, which are all pretty cool. It's pretty amazing that you can go overseas on your university break, undertake some language training or a public health study tour, a law intensive, and you come back and you've got a subject's credits towards your degree. So very great way to spend your university breaks. Another opportunity that I had was being able to shadow the UK Consul General for a day as part of an International Women's Day competition that I found out about through one of my lecturers sharing the opportunity through the RMIT International Studies group. So that was a really interesting experience that gave me an insight into the world of diplomacy and how Australia operates with countries that have embassies and consulates in Australia. So very cool insights. And then two of my highlights of my degree have been my 2 work integrated learning placements or internships. So I recently just finished a full-time internship with Global Victoria, which is the state government Department for International Relations and Trade. And after finishing that, I began another internship with Child Fund, who are a non-governmental international development organisation working in the Asia Pacific to advance children's rights. So through those 2 experiences, I was able to gain really practical experience in policy writing, research, event presentations, all sorts of different things, and gain a real insight into the world of government in my first internship and international development in my second. The last opportunity that I wanted to talk about was the New Colombo Plan. So this is an initiative of the Australian government that supports students to go and study overseas for minimum 6 months up to 19 months, studying overseas in the Asia Pacific, fully supported by the government. So you can go overseas and the government essentially supports you with your living expenses, your study fees, and extra travel opportunities and learning experiences. So if you're heading into international studies, that program is absolutely something to keep an eye out for. So that's just a quick snapshot of all the things I've tried to squeeze into my 2.5 years, almost 3 years in the degree. In addition to that, of course, you have all of your amazing subjects that Julian outlined earlier. And in particular, some of the real work-focused subjects that I've enjoyed have been global careers, intercultural communication, global professional practice, and the global internship course that I mentioned earlier. So there is heaps more opportunities that you can read about on the International Studies section of the RMIT website, but I hope that that snapshot has given you a little idea of just the number of really cool things you can do with this degree. So if I could just move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in addition to all of these amazing global opportunities, we also just have a really wonderful culture and community within the degree. Before I started, everyone spoke of this community and I didn't really know what it meant, but essentially because we are a smaller degree, you really get to know everyone in your cohort and build up those friendships, which is really well established through the International Studies Association, or the ISA, which is the Students' Association of our degree specifically at RMIT. And what the ISA does is they run events and share opportunities that bring students in our degree together. So these events might vary from things like social drinks to trivia nights to cocktail parties, and they even have a networking group on LinkedIn. So it's quite a wide range from professional to personal development opportunities. But it's a really great way to make friends and get to know the people in your degree. I think that probably almost every single student in our degree is part of the ISA, or the International Studies Association. So it's also a great way to get to know people from different year levels as well as your own, which is nice. There's also opportunities to join the executive team, and this can provide really great leadership experience. So I was treasurer in my second year and was able to help plan the events. You connect with industry through your event planning and your partnerships, as well as getting to know the staff of the International Studies degree as well. So university, of course, is an amazing experience, but it is a million times better when you have friends. So having the ISA there to really facilitate those friendships and to allow you to get to know people is a really wonderful thing to have, and certainly makes it easier as you head into your first year. Hopefully, by the time the people that are attending the open day today are joining our degree, we'll be back on campus and you'll be able to make the most of university life as well. So we're really lucky at RMIT that we are smack bang in the centre of the city. So there's always something going on. If you've got a few hours to kill between classes, you're never short of finding something fun to do or a cool new place to eat at or find coffee. So that's a really fun way to spend your days at uni as well, in between studying, of course. Just the last thing that I wanted to note about the student community is the really strong alumni network that Julian touched on earlier. We often have alumni come back and speak during our lectures and tutorials, and that was a real highlight for me. While it's great, of course, for building your networks and connections, it's also really cool to be sitting in a lecture hall as a first year student and listening in to an alumni coming back and talking about, you know, the charity or the organisation they founded, or their work at the UN, or the work they're doing in the security space, and to sit there thinking, wow, like those people had the same educational foundation as me. Like it's a bit of a surreal experience, and it really shows you where this degree can take you. So I found the value of this alumni network through my internships and part-time job seeking. It's a really extensive network, but also really supportive. The lecturers have helped to connect me with alumni who have coached and supported me through graduate job recruitment and advised me on how and where I should seek careers post-graduation. So it's a pretty unique and special degree to be a part of, and I really can't recommend it enough. I'm quite sad to be leaving it, to be honest. But yeah, I'll hand back to you, Julian. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meg. And that point about the alumni network is a really, it's a really important one. And in addition to your own story, I have another one just relatively recently where the student was really interested in like issues of ethical business. And then I was like, oh, why don't you go and talk to Chelsea? She works at this fair trading. And now that student is not a student anymore, now working as a ethical supply chain person in a major Australian cosmetic brand, essentially. And so she's really begun to live that career that she was striving for. So our next slide is also about alumni. And so there are so many alumni doing so many different things in Central Australia, such as Ingrid Johansson, who's been working with Indigenous communities to profile their artwork and bring it to a global audience. For example, we have alumni working in other small organisations in Melbourne and across the world, as well as the huge employers around the world, including Ernst & Young and Allianz. And of course, as I said before, we have a small colony of, I don't know how small it is, it might actually be quite big by now, of international studies alumni up in Canberra, as well as state government and local government as well. Next slide. And this is Tina, who had her mind fixed on a particular job in a particular government department, but because she learned to be flexible and adaptable, she explored other opportunities. And it turned out that even when she got offered the dream job that she had always been working for, she realized that this other opportunity that she had begun to explore with a security firm was one that she loved even more. And so again, this is a story about finding not only the job or working towards a job that you think you want, but also realizing that there's a whole universe of careers out there for you to discover where you may even be better suited to doing as compared to what you think you might be wanting to do. Next slide. So career outcomes are very diverse, and the international studies degree is a fantastic degree to pursue your dreams as well as to explore what you might want to do. So whether it's in the world of global security or foreign policy or that kind of international arena, or whether it's in government or whether it's in the NGO development type sector, these are all avenues for you to make your way down through our degree. And as well, we have quite a lot of students who finish our degree and go on to do law and to practice law. There's loads of students who practice law now who've come out of our degree. So I know we're getting towards the end of our time here, and I'm keen to throw over to my colleague Chris Seguris, who will talk about some of the questions they've had in the chat. And just on that point about a coffee, Meg, coffee is a little bit lost on me as I drink almost entirely tea. But I'm told that one of the best coffee outlets in Melbourne is like embedded in the RMIT buildings on the other side of the road of Swanston Street to me. So I don't know, Chris, if you're a coffee fanatic, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. And Salman, before I hand over to Chris, we can move on the slide. Yes, so before I hand over to Chris, I'll just quickly tell you, these are the key dates for next year. Basically, semester 1 starts on the 28th of February, semester 2 in the middle of July. But of course, you'll have had plenty of communication from us before you get to starting semester. So what we'll do now is we'll throw to Chris to tell us a little bit about the questions that they've had, and then on the next screen you'll also see my email address. So you might want to write that down and send me an email, and I'll help you in any way that I can. So yeah, Chris, how's it been going?
Yeah, thanks, Julian. Yeah, we've got a bunch of questions in the chat. I think we've answered them all pretty well as we've been going. But there've been, I think we've had almost one question on every major facet of the degree. So, where do graduates go? What are the internships about? What sort of assessment do you have, etc. And I mean, just reflecting on what Meg was saying about how she got to where she is now, or where she's going next. And I mean, one of the things I've really noticed about sort of trajectories within the degree is where people end up working at the end is often an extension of what they've jumped into along the way. And so Meg, by doing that Teachers program in Indonesia, doing the sort of diplomacy focused placements and opportunities, really it seems like you've sought out that type of work and those sorts of opportunities along the degree, which have then allowed you, once you get the opportunity to get your foot in the door with an employer, you can say, look, I'm really interested in this and I've been doing it already for a few years. I've done this and this and this, and that's really impressive to people. And I think there's as you mentioned, there's really diverse opportunities through those internships, study tours, project work, and so on, to dive into quite different facets of international work. And I remember one student a long time ago who was had lived in China, was teaching English, and came back as a mature age student, and so was fluent in Chinese by the time he came to us, and was a bit of a tech nerd. And he was saying, look, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of into computers and I speak Chinese fluently, and I'm sort of interested in international diplomacy, but I don't really know. And I was saying, have you ever thought of working in cybersecurity? And he said, what's that? And then he dived headlong into that world, and he's made a really interesting career of himself by combining that Chinese language and IT interest, which he thought was not going to really be very useful, because IT was sort of from previous studies he'd done. And so I think it's that openness in the program that lets people dive into whole lots of different experiences that I think following your passions is a really good approach in something like this, because you're going to have much more enthusiasm and motivation for things that you love doing, and you're much more likely to succeed and do really well when you follow your passions. And then when you graduate and you have opportunities to go and talk to people about what you want to be doing, they'll see that passion come through what you've chosen in through the degree. So I think I think that's something that maybe binds together a bunch of those questions in the chat. Along with, there was an interesting one about assessment, and I think there's one of the distinctions between us and some other universities, that our assessment tends to be much more hands-on, much more practical and professional sorts of tasks that we're teaching you how to do, and assessing your ability to communicate in all sorts of different ways. So while we do write essays, you're not doing the same 3,000 word essay in every subject on a different topic. There's quite a lot of diversity of assessment types. So yeah, I think, but if there are any other questions, throw them in the chat now. We can stay on the Q&A for a few minutes more. Yeah, but I think that's all, Julian. But yeah, thanks for your input too, Meg. That was fantastic to hear your story. And back to you, Julian.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a note on the assessments as well. Throughout my internship, I really utilised the skills and experience I developed in those assessments in the practical context. It was pretty cool when I was asked to write a policy brief for the governor. They were like, oh, you've probably never written a policy brief before, like this is what it looks like. And being able to say, oh, actually, I've done about 5 across my degree that I've had assessed and gotten feedback on, really made it a whole lot easier to jump right in the deep end in your internship. So as I was working through my work integrated learning placements, I was really able to see the value of those different styles of assessments. Of course, you've still got your, the academic writing that is a crucial skill, but being able to do practical assessments as well is a really great skill and asset of the degree, I think. One of my favorites, Julian, one of my favorite assessments was actually in your degree, your subject, Julian. In working in global careers, one of our tasks was to interview a person who has one of your dream jobs. And so it gives you an excuse to reach out to these people that are working in the field you want to be in and doing the jobs you want to be in, and to ask them how they got there. And a lot of the time, if you reached out to someone just wanting a chat with no reason really why, it's going to be a lot harder. But if you come to them with a purpose saying, I'm doing an international studies degree. You're in a career I really aspire to join, and I have to do this project. Like, do you have 20 minutes to talk to me? And it just gives you this in to talk to the people that are working in the industries you want to be in, and also prompts you to reflect on the interview that you have with them and put that into a magazine style format, I think the task was. So the assessments in the degree are actually a highlight, which sounds super strange, I know, especially coming from year 12 where you've got all your Saxon exams and they're a drag, but I think they get a lot better in university when you're studying things and writing about things that you're really passionate about, and when they're, you know, directly related to the work you want to be doing. So yeah, just wanted to add that in. Hope that's okay, Chris.
Yeah,
and yeah,
fantastic.
sorry, Chris. Yeah, and one of the things I think also, and we'll wrap up in a minute, is that I think when I was at university, I would regularly every semester have to go to a big exam hall and do an exam, whereas it's very, very rare to have that experience in our degree at RMIT to go to an exam hall. It might happen if you do an elective that's far outside of our degree. They might still do that, but yeah, Meg, I think you'll confirm that big exam hall exams are not a feature of our assessment regime here at RMIT, or at least in international studies.
Yes, can confirm. Was very pleased to not have to continue sitting exams after year 12. It's much better doing assessments that you've got time to think about and articulate yourself through. It's really great assessment style.
Cool.
I just need to clarify that the lower level languages, we do exams in big halls. Sorry.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you have
Huge
exams.
numbers, so it has to be done in halls. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because sometimes I've said that, and it's like maybe with the exception of languages, you do something.
Just for transparency, just in case there's someone out there.
Absolutely. Thanks, Emma. Yeah. So what I can say is it doesn't happen often, but you may well encounter it from time to time. Okay. Cool. So yeah, having told you all about our fantastic degree and the experience that you'll have when you join us, and again, hopefully the world will be back to normal pretty much by the time you're in, by the time you either arrive or certainly by second year, and you can have all those international experiences. We really look forward to welcoming all of you on campus next year. Again, if you have any questions, pop them in the email. And yeah, would love to hear from you, and really looking forward to seeing you. Thank you so much, Emma, Chris, and Meg, and thank you, Salman, for driving the whole show as well. All right, take care and have a lovely day.